Hey you, I'm the Queen of Shade. Welcome to the conversation. These are conversations, not interviews. It's more of an inner, I-N-N-E-R view than an interview. So we're going to talk back and forth. There's going to be a beautiful exchange of energy both ways, and we are going to enjoy ourselves to the most. So come on, let's get to the conversation. Love you. Mwah. One-on-one conversations with the Queen of Shade. These are inner views, not interviews. Conversations worth having. Let's see what your soul looks like, and not just your body. Salutations, Queen of Shade here, coming to you with another great presentation. Speaking to amazing people around the world. We have hopped continents and going from state to state here in stateside and in the country has just been an amazing experience because the people that come to this platform are just so larger than life and personality driven, and it's just so amazing. I learned so much as we conversate that I just have to keep doing them. And having said that, I have someone else that you need to meet. And he was even dropping jewels before we started. And I told him to hush for a second because I needed to hit the record button. But this young man, this beautiful man, as y'all can see, is an activist. He's an organizer. He's a pastor. He also considers himself a servant. He is executive director at Mobilizing Millennials and the founder of Tabernacle of Truth, I believe that is.
That's right.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Pastor J. Christopher Johnson.
Oh my gosh, Queen, I'm so excited. You had me so excited to be here. Personally, thank you so much for extending the invitation to have conversation. As I told you, I've been following you for some years now, and to see where you have come today from where you were once upon a time, to see you not give up, okay? To see you just keep on the track of keep going, to see you identify with your challenges, having been in the industry before the prevalence of social media, having challenges meeting social media requirements, right? And then just the overall courage to keep going. Thank you so much for providing opportunity for people to witness, to see, and to experience that no matter what it looks like, that it is for you, it's for you. So I really appreciate the opportunity, and I'm so excited to be here with you on today.
Listen, I'm going to speak to that immediately because these are interviews, not interviews.
That's right.
You can see your soul, and you already showing us your soul. Let me tell you something. The internet saved my career. Saved my career because I'm 41 years old. So I walked into entertainment at 19. Right out of college, I had to be medically withdrawn because I found out, 19 is the age, bipolar 1, anxiety, acute anxiety disorder, and PTSD. So that kind of sent me crashing to the ground. And the medical withdrawal, I had to sign it, being on suicide watch and all. And Pastor, it has been a journey. And, I did the on foot. Go see everybody, go here. I started as a model. So I went to Barbizon, which was a modeling school here in the Philadelphia area, the Ardmore area, actually on the main line where all the money is. And I liked it for the basis of it giving me the particulars. Like it taught me how to do half turns, full turns, how to tie full Windsors, half Windsors. Like it gave me the actual education part. And then I launched out into the world, into the modeling world, and I was met with so many inappropriate propositions, I'll say.
And so many of the young men that I met, Pastor, they were, how we know this term, they were down for it.
Okay.
Were
All
down,
right.
they were down with it.
All
And,
right.
you know, I was
Or
saying,
we would say they were here for the feeling
yeah,
of
yeah, they were there for it. They were determined to do whatever they had to do
it.
to make money and get in. And I just never been that type of girl.
Hmm.
That type of girl. If I'm going to be a hoe, I'm going to be a hoe on my own terms, not for somebody to hold over my head, um,
Sure.
pass me around,
Sure.
whisper behind my back.
Hmm.
Like I just wasn't that. So, at 22, I did get the amazing opportunity to go to Paris. I did once I met a photographer there who was amazing. He's deceased now. That's how long I've been in this. He's deceased now. Both the photographers, my New York photographer and my Paris photographer, are deceased. I'm an old girl in fashion. I'm an old girl. But he took one photo of me, one photo, because of the way I spoke to him.
Hmm.
I went and saw him and I asked him for an appointment. And I
Hmm.
went, I sat down and I talked to him. And what people don't understand about me, just starting this off, is I've always spoken like this.
Hmm.
This knowledge, this foreknowing has
Hmm.
always been there. I've always been an oracle, always. So back then, I just didn't have any help and I didn't have any money. And those were what should we say, recipes for disaster.
Sure.
So once I came back from Paris, because I didn't have enough money to stay, to really make my mark there the first time. I'm going back, Pastor, but um, the internet, because I had tried to hit New York, and that's when I met all them guys. And oh, you got to do it this way. Why don't you come to New York and do this? You're actually gay. You like this kind of stuff, because these were straight men that were doing this, Pastor.
Hmm.
Um, Straight men. But I said no way in hell, and I went home. And I took my happy ass back to Philadelphia. And the crazy thing about that, Pastor, was I was homeless. I had a place to stay in Paris, but I was homeless when I came back here. Family just didn't understand me being me. Highly church driven. So I came back with nowhere to live. And what I loved about the homes that I stayed in, Pastor, is they had the internet. So I was able to MySpace. I was able to Google. I was able to send photos and reach out, because I didn't just stay in America. I was sending photos to Germany. I was sending photos to Norway. I was sending photos to Prague, and which made me today, if someone said to me, I'll pay you to help me with my modeling career as a booker, child, I could do that in my sleep.
Yeah.
But the internet, I came 2007, 2008, YouTube. I started singing. That was my first fray in with the internet and garnering a lot of attention, singing. And I sang everything: Whitney, Mariah, Beyonce, everybody, all the greats. And everybody said, "Oh, it's not, this bitch is not singing. This is not her. She's lip syncing. There's got to be a girl in the room." Like, I went through all of that, but I fought through that. I fought through that. And I made a name for myself. And then the great thing about the internet is, just as much as you can reach out, other people can reach out to you.
Hmm.
So I met my first producer from New Zealand, and we started crafting my sound. And
All
that
the way from New Zealand.
all the way from music. Sometimes you can't get help in your own land.
Yeah.
Can't get help in your
Yeah.
own. But anyway, I digress. So the internet saved my life. So the reason why I said that was I just to have you take notice, that means a lot to me. Because sometimes as entertainers, we wrestle with, I'm not doing enough.
Sure.
But
Sure.
but to any entertainer watching, that's normal. Just keep going.
Well, hey, everything ain't for everybody. And I think oftentimes we get caught up in trying to silo a particular audience or to gain support from a particular audience when that's not who God called to be our assignment. And oftentimes, because we are forcing ourselves to do this, we feel as if we're not doing enough. But of course, it would feel like that because we're attempting to appeal to an audience who's not truly interested in that, right? And so I think sometimes, oftentimes, is that a reflection of us, because sometimes we don't want to associate with those in whom we most identify with. Now, that is some inner type stuff, because a lot of times we think that we're going to get support from outside factors when really those people have the greatest relatability to you. When you hone in on your humility, on your humbleness, when you hone in on just being a charismatic individual, you are going to realize that there are a slew of people who are here to support you. But how is it that you are also seeing them for who they are and not as if they are not worthy enough to support you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? You, you, yeah. You,
Listen, I'm here to have fun today.
yeah. You
I'm here to have fun.
you know what I love? I'm just gonna say this as the oracle that I am. God is with you.
I receive it. I receive it.
God is with you. So, Pastor, let's start now because
Let's go.
we done given each other flowers. Tell
I'm
him.
glad we can still smell them.
Yes. Wait,
Yeah, Lord.
wait. Before we started, you said something and I wanted you to say it again. It was about life. It was about life.
Oh, yeah. Well, so first of all, folks, being that I'm commemorating this occasion, I did purchase some champagne. And I was continuing to say that I'm going to live life and not let life live me. I think oftentimes we allow life to consume us, or allow aspects of life to consume us, and not really understand that we have a mind to control and dictate the flow of life should we decide to hone in on it. And so I oftentimes like to talk about the independent and dependent variable, whether we're in the sciences or statistics. But your dependent variable is a result of your independent variable, or what I changed on purpose. And so when you understand that when you interject yourself into the equation, you're ultimately changing something that is going to ultimately affect the dependent variable, or the result of that thing. All of that to say, no matter what it look like, feel like, sound like, no matter how life may look for you right now, there is something on the inside of you that cannot, will not, and shall not die. So it's just a reminder to live this thing called life, go through this journey called life, and don't let this thing live you.
Man, I could listen to you speak all day. We got plenty of time. So
Yes, we do.
yeah,
Yes, we do.
we got plenty of time. But no, there's I love how articulate you are. I love how passionate you are. See, get this. I'm not Christian, but I always love the charismatic preacher. Like
Mm-hmm.
the charismatic preacher, because if we look at the origin of the charismatic preacher, our ancestors were in the field.
Mm-hmm.
So we weren't allowed in white churches. So
Mm-hmm.
we heard the gospel because we weren't allowed to read. We heard the
Mm-hmm.
gospel and we had to make it all our own. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying? We had to make it all our own. We had to make that thing palatable for everybody listening out in the field to keep them going.
that's right. That's right.
So I just always love the charismatic preacher because I ain't falling asleep on you. My head ain't gonna lean on you. And I was telling everybody, you're so easy on the eye. Allow me to give you that compliment. You're so easy on the eye. So it's just, people didn't, even when I was in church, they used to get mad with me when I said this, but I was like, church is a business. Church is a business.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, when you have the sharpest preachers, the prettiest preachers, the singingest choir, the
Yeah.
best soloist. Like what I'm saying is there are multiple components to building a successful ministry.
Absolutely.
Components that are very much like a business. Very much.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I recognize your favor and I recognize your reach. That's what I'm saying. I know your reach. Yeah, your reach is quite something because you have all of these great things going for you. And you even said, that's what experience will do to you. And I like that a lot. So I'm going
So
now.
we good.
Yeah, now I'm
We
going to
good.
throw the questions.
Yeah.
So tell everyone where you're from because I was excited about this.
I'm originally from the suburbs of New Orleans. I'll just say New Orleans because I stay 10 minutes from downtown. So that's about it. I'm from a suburb called Gretna, unincorporated Gretna. but literally I'm from the birds of New Orleans. Let the good time, or we say laissez les bon temps rouler, let the good times roll. Yeah.
Oh, Louisiana. So you like you said, you were born there.
Born and raised. Born and raised. I'm not going anywhere. And it's so interesting, especially when you get into the dating realm, folks get to asking those type of questions, but then they see the social media. I've developed such a foundation out here that I won't, right? Not saying I don't plan on having multiple properties, amen.
Yeah,
But
amen.
as it pertains to the movement work that's being done here, I can't see myself just moving and leaving the thing that in which I started. So if it is the movement of the Tabernacle of Truth Charismatic Christian Assembly, if it is the Mobilizing Millennials organization, I have a commitment to be here. And so there's no place like home. I couldn't be Dorothy and click my heels faster to get back to New Orleans. So yeah.
I like that. I like that. So, New Orleans is full of rich history, French Creole history. Do you embrace any of that?
Yeah, I identify as Creole.
Mm-hmm.
I do identify as Creole. I think it's important for us to realize our heritage. I think there's such a disconnect, especially as we have become enslaved. I feel that there are populations of people who one just don't respect the black person in general. And then being that there is such a disconnect in years, I think that young people don't find it as important to be familiarized with their heritage as should be. But I mean, I can go back to track my four-time your great grandmother. Those type of things are very important to me. Even tracking, I just learned that we have some family from the West Indies. I mean, it's really everything. And so when we talk about New Orleans, people talk about it being a gumbo or a melting pot or whatever the case may be. But you got to realize we are a place that is welcoming of all people and diversities and cultures. And so I wholeheartedly embrace my heritage. It was not easy for any of us to be here, right? But I don't want to do a disservice to myself by not recognizing those who would pave the way for me to be here today.
Yeah, I heard someone speak the other day, and she said she was actually from Africa, and I was listening to her live on TikTok, and she said, one thing about slavery, one thing about our ancestors, we were not allowed to like grow our hair or do different things because what she said was, if you do the things that tie you to your heritage, you'll know yourself.
That's right.
She said, so slavery's intent was to strip all those things away that you would know because it would inevitably cause you not to know yourself. And that even went to stripping the hair that was coming out of your head.
Yeah. Yeah.
You would lose your sense of self.
That reminds me of if you're familiar with the Tower of Babel and all folks all over building this ladder, this tower to heaven. We're seeing that now when we talk about diversity, equity, inclusion. When we talk about the critical race theory, my background is in politics and nonprofit work too as well. Yes. And so when we talk about stripping things from our curriculum, that's exactly what they're desiring us to do, is to not have identity. And honestly, to be dumb. Yeah. What you see a lot of folk coming together that speak different languages, that have various heritages, and that are trying to climb their way to somebody's top together, right? And then when you understand that folk are okay with various populations of people coming together, then you feel as if you're being threatened. We have a problem. Yeah. We have an intense problem out here. Because it's not as if we desire to assume the identity of somebody else, So let us live ours. We're often imitated, emulated, never duplicated. Okay. And so, yeah, that's all I have to say on that. We're seeing this thing right now as we're building our own Tower of Babel in the United States, in the world. And you can see just how the powers and principalities that be are attempting to strip that.
Yeah. And, this brings me to something that I saw, because like you said, we've both followed each other for years. It's
Mhm.
been years. And I too, I wasn't the only one that had this amazing evolution. You did as well. And to watch you just grow. And I first came across you on TikTok before I found you on Instagram.
Yeah.
And I remember, I get this, it was so memorable. Your voice, I told you, your charisma, what you were saying. So, I remember the first video I ever saw of you. I remember.
What was it? What was it?
Yeah, you were literally in a car and you were driving and you were talking to um the LGBT community. And you said, you were talking about religion and you were talking about how it relates to the LGBT man or woman or child. And what you said caught me because you said, all of you, baby, hold the space. That's what you said. You said,
Uh,
hold the space. Don't give up the ground. Hold
yeah, that's right.
the space. And I was like, oh,
That's
that
right.
I knew. And I followed you there. And then I followed your social media back over to Instagram, where I had done more of my work. And it was curtains from there, because every time I see something from you, I stop. I mean, I saw not too long ago, you were they wanted to close certain schools.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and you were lobbying for them not to close certain schools.
Mhm.
That was that. And then I recently saw you talking about the fact that HIV should not be criminalized. Like you are really an activist. You
Yeah.
are really doing serious work. And I want to talk about those things. So we can talk about, those things that I just said. So first video, hold the space. Can you just give us a little bit about that and why, what brought you to that stance?
When we're born, we already consume space. And I dare not let anybody make me lessen myself or make me feel smaller or be smaller about who I am due to characteristics that may differentiate one from another. And so when you understand that you are not just purposed, but you are also purposeful, you understand that the space in which you take up, other people are going to also benefit from it. All right. And so my greatest emphasis here is that you are somebody. Dr. King said in his blueprint speech, I don't care if you're a street sweeper, sweep streets so well, like Michelangelo did. Sweep streets so well that all of the hosts of heaven and earth will have to pause and say, "Here lived the great street sweeper who swept his job well." At the end of the day, it does not matter where you think you are, where people think you are. You deserve to take up as much space as anybody else. And we have to realize that we are contributions. And so going back to the earlier conversation where you said artists oftentimes don't feel like you're doing enough, that's a very serious thing. But by whose standards are we also measuring that thing by? And so, like I said, we're not called to everybody. We're not called to every assignment, but we are here to take space, and not just take space, but make space for those who can't take space for themselves. If we have the privilege to do, just like I remember a good friend of mine, Hope Danielle Giselle, and we were at a conference some years ago, and she was talking about straight presenting or passing men. If we are able to get through the door, then it is our responsibility to hold that thing open.
Yeah. Yeah, Pastor. Yeah. And shout out to Hope Giselle, because I love her. My God.
That's my good girl.
Yeah.
Love her. Yes.
Yes. But you're right. Well, because I like what you just said. I want to stay there for a second because, I was the little boy growing up that I was effeminate. I'm two-spirited. I have a masculine spirit and a feminine spirit, so I can give you both. But my spirit, even my therapist was saying this to me the other day. She said, "Don't take offense to this." I said, "Baby, I've heard everything. I'm 41 years old. I've been in therapy for 19 years. I've heard it all. Just lay it on me." So she said, your spirit, she said, you lean more towards the femininity in your spirit. And she said, I feel like, that's a good thing for you because you are spiritually and emotionally opened and available. You experience life. She says you don't have the traditional toxic masculinity where you run by, don't cry, don't do this, don't do that, that's gay, don't do this, don't stand that way, don't act this way. So, I love that you're saying that, because there are so many, and I know, even when I was speaking earlier about modeling, I know so many masculine presenting men. So many. And the thing is, you'd never know that they adored me. You'd never know. But that's because how I combat the system, one-on-one and one at a time. I do my work, and I put my videos up, and I speak, and I disseminate my information into social media, into the algorithm. But that DM is one-on-one. And I talk to them, and I'm really good. It's like you said, like, I'm really good at reaching one of my own, because it is me. It's me. So it's easier to do that. But like I said, I have so many, and I've started to hear more of them come out and speak and say, listen, we're not going to tolerate being in these straight spaces and you bully the effeminate boy.
That's right.
One of my babies, he has a podcast as well. His name is King David. He was talking about this whole, presentation. And he said, at the barbershop, he said, he looked at the barber like, do you know who you're talking to? Do you know who's in here? You making fun of the feminine boy, but he's not by himself. He got all of us, so that's why I asked you about that. So the second thing, after holding the space, that I asked, literally, I remember the one. So give me a second. I remember the one.
Good.
Blew it out of the water. No, but okay. So the second one was the schools. They were shutting down certain schools that you were lobbying to keep open. What was the dilemma there? The dilemma there? What happened?
Politics is just hilarious. And when we prioritize politics and personal interests and disregard people or citizens, you see what has happened in Jefferson Parish, where they attempted to close down 8 schools, but they closed down 7 schools, inclusive of both my middle school and my high school. Oh. And so, a lot of people like to have other people do their dirty work. And so I call out names. There's an individual by the name of Derek Shepard, who now sits on the school board. And Derek Shepard is a pawn, because as soon as he got elected, he drafted legislation on the school board so that we can propose a vote and go ahead and close these schools. Now, arguments were that the parish could no longer afford it. Okay. I don't believe that by a long shot. I think that this has been a thing that they've been trying to do. But the greatest disdain was that there was no real and actual community input. And so I wasn't as upset as the decision being made, even though we already knew it was made when we went there. All right. As much as I was the total disregard for the people that this will impact. Yeah. And so when we're talking about people changing bus routes, are we talking about a child missing the bus that will only travel here during a certain time? Then they're missing how many hours of work to try to get you to where you need to be. When we talk about turf wars, are you coming to this school, but we don't like you? We have so many things to address and to talk about, but we are so much more consumed with political advancements than we are with the well-being and the efficacy of people. The same board member, just maybe 6 months later, then ran for the parish, or we have parishes, not counties, in Louisiana, then ran for parish, a parish seat that would have had him on like a city council level. This is somebody who was a perennial candidate who only is seeking power. And when you see people that are selfish and want to advance themselves, they are going to leave you behind. And so basically, that is what's happened. It was voted upon and agreed upon that those 7 schools are closed. And so, yeah, now we're dealing with that. But nonetheless, when I heard about it, I immediately had to get to the school board meeting. I don't believe in just sitting by the sideline.
I know. I saw you at the meeting.
I can't do that. I can't do that. My insides will get me to go like, what's going on?
Mhm.
Well, I need to be contributing in some type of way. And so, to be honest with you, I don't even think I originally went to speak. I really went to support community. Well, I wouldn't be me if I didn't run my mouth. And so that's how that came about. That's how that came about.
Listen, that's a fabulous quality, and I need you to keep doing it because it brought me into your life. You know, you reached someone here in Philadelphia. I'm in Philadelphia, the northeast of Philadelphia. You reached me all the way from Louisiana. So yeah, we need you to keep running your mouth because if it reached here, it's reaching other countries.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
they're
yeah,
watching
yeah.
this mess. You know, they're watching us deconstruct and self-destruct from the inside out. So I want to stay there for a second because this is the thing. You mentioned turf wars because that was exactly what I was worried about when you were even talking about the schools and you took to social media and you were, talking to us about what was going on. My fear was, okay, 7 schools closed. But now they got to go to schools that may not be in a favorable area. You're herding everybody together. And that's dangerous because like you said, these kids, we don't like you and we don't like that. I mean, I experienced that in college.
Yeah.
It was like, I went in state, but they turn around and it was very, very and very quickly, it was, why do you speak that way? I mean, and this was from the Black children. Why do you speak that way? And what's Willow Grove? Because that's where I'm from. And there was this whole, you think you're better than us. And I'm like, no, I don't think. See, back then I was trying to please too. I was only 17 when I went to college. So it was like, no, I'm trying to appease everybody, but they didn't like me because, these were inner city children from Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
They were smart. Now, I'll give them that. They were smart. But when it came to social grace and nuance, my
Mm-hmm.
school had taught me how to be able to do that, how to, Joe Biden's wife graduated from my high school.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. So
come on, Dr. Jill Biden.
right?
All right.
So this is what I was, coming from, a blue ribbon school, college prep school. It was the school's intention for me to go to college.
Mm-hmm.
I got into, listen, I bombed the SATs. I had terrible test anxiety, bombed the SATs. I don't think I got a 790 and got into all 4 schools that I applied to because them grades was hitting right. And I said hitting. Yes, I did. Them grades hit right. So it was never like I was used to obstacles, but not really. They like to have people lobby for you that really have your best interest at heart is where I'm going.
Yeah.
Who think about, because I remember when I was moved from the inner city after at 10 years old after a horrific incident. The boys in the hood did not like my voice. We're 10 years old. They're chasing me home, bludgeoning me in the head with bricks. And my grandmama and my aunt said, because my mama was on drugs, my daddy was on drugs and out there, and it was like I was grandmama's property and auntie's property, and it was like, oh no, you can't stay here because they're gonna kill my baby. So my grandmother hatched a plan, my aunt hatched a plan, and 10 years old, from 10 years old all the way up to college, I went to school in the suburbs. And I say this because I want to illustrate something. It's not that the bullying stopped. The bullying didn't stop. It's just that Caucasian children don't use their fists, they use their words. So it was still bullying.
Which can be awful, which can sometimes be worse.
Oh, yes. Yes. The first day I got there, a young girl asked me, what are you, a transvestite? Because I was dressed like a boy. And she asked me, now mind you, today I am. Now look at the irony. Today I am. Okay? Today I am. But back then at 10 years old, I didn't know what the hell this white girl was talking about. And she said
that. Know what she was talking about.
She made it seem like she did.
Well, let me tell you this. Ignorance begets ignorance, and willful stupidity begets willful stupidity. And oftentimes there's a word that is going on TikTok, lore, L-O-R-E, or mom's lore, where folks are trying to understand how they were treated through their mother because of how they were treated. Yeah, bullshit. I'm a cussing priest, amen. Bullshit. because at the end of the day, people are learning through this, okay, and just repeating through this. I seen a picture earlier today on social media that showed one child picking cotton and another child that had on a Klan suit. So you telling me that we can't teach, if both of them are old enough to do that, you're telling me that we can't teach some of these things in a classroom? You're telling me that we can't teach the truth about you. We can't teach the truth about your people. Absolutely not. That's ridiculous. And so I don't give that child that much grace and credit. They ignorant. They ignorant. And they get it from somewhere. Okay.
They get it from their parents.
Absolutely. And it's a cancer.
Yeah.
And what happens to cancer if it's not snipped from the root or microwave?
It kills the body. It kills the entire body.
Hey.
And you know what's so crazy? Like, so the bullying, it everywhere I went, it was always a jibe. It was always this. I rarely had any friends. You know, I managed to make some towards 11th grade and 12th grade, so junior year and senior year, but it was pretty hard. It was pretty hard because being religious, coming from a religious family, a lot of eyes were on me, but I was also coming into the knowledge that I was homosexual. And that was difficult. That was difficult. I remember, you know, liking certain guys, you know, and and this was so crazy because here we go about this nature versus nurture thing. I was never taught how to court a guy. If I liked a guy, I wrote a letter.
That's cute.
You know, and I remember the way the kids used to fold it up into a square.
Absolutely. Mine was already, you know, and put it in and folded it, and it was its own envelope almost.
Yeah. I wrote a letter and I let the guy know. And some guys were more gracious than others. You know, some guys were more gracious than others and didn't blast me to the whole school. But I mean, even in school, like, because of what was going on at home with the religious, you know, indoctrination. And then get this, now mind you, I lived in Willow Grove, which was an hour from, you know, northern Philadelphia. So then we were commuting an hour both ways, an hour one way, an hour the other way, to this ghetto church. Now, mind you, everybody know this church. I went to BM Oakley Memorial Temple, Church of God in Christ.
I'm about to say, anytime you end with a temple, you know you get the code, Pentecostal something. Somebody's shouting somewhere.
Yeah. So, you know, they had great singers and great preachers, and Mother Irene A. Oakley was amazing leader. And then so was Pastor Gardner Langston, Maria Gardner Langston, whom I'm still in contact with. You know, it's so crazy because that church, like, the men were bullying me. I was a child. The men were bullying me. And I wanted to leave that church. So I was getting it at church and I was getting it at home every day at school. It just did not make for a conducive environment. And the reason why I brought that up is because my heart goes out to all those children, back to what you were talking about, all those children whose schools closed and they stayed up with anxiety and fear, knowing that they would have to go to a school where they were herded into a classroom where there were more of them, and that would happen and this would happen. And I want to say this too, in the defense of the young woman that did that. She wrote me years later because I didn't realize how well known I was. And I said something on Facebook and I called her name. And they found her. And they, you know, went to her and, you know, started to tell her, you know, this beautiful human being over here, you caused him problems in, you know, 5th grade. Like, it was bad. And she had a son and everything. And she wrote me this long letter apologizing and telling me that she was going to teach her child to love everyone, you know. So I did get some closure from that situation, but my heart goes out to those people, those children, because I couldn't imagine, you know, going to a school where I felt safe.
Yeah.
And then having to go to a school where I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, if I say the wrong thing, if I look the wrong way, God forbid I wear the wrong sneaker.
Yeah.
This is, you know, like, like, and that's the thing. You said that prioritizing politics over the community, over the people. You know, the people now have to suffer. 7 school bodies now have to be hoarded in, corralled in to whatever schools are open. And
Right.
that's not fair. He should not have been able to do that. But guess what? One thing about me, I'm not Christian, but I know God.
Come on. Come on.
Let me tell you something. Even as I sit here as an oracle, baby, what you sow, you reap.
That's right.
What you sow, you
That's
reap.
right.
What you
And it
sow.
don't take long.
Nope.
It don't take long.
Nope. And especially when other people listen. And see, this is the thing. See, I don't like politics a lot because the politician, a lot of them are under the assumption that they are real, that they're wanted in the space. Oh yeah, they wanted me, they voted me. And a lot of times we vote and it's the lesser of two evils. We don't want either one of you.
It's true.
You know, we don't want either one of you. But I hope there's some political aspirations in your future because my God, you would be great. You would be great. Senator, oh my God.
Listen,
You would be great.
We're gonna have some things come. We're gonna have some things come in the works. I'm excited about that. I always believe in leading with a servant's heart.
Yeah.
No matter what you're doing, that's my greatest emphasis is to serve. And so I'm actually the youngest person in Louisiana 2nd Congressional District to run for the House of Representatives. And I'm also a former Chief Deputy Clerk of Court of our Civil Division and currently just was elected unopposed to our Democratic Parish Executive Committee, excuse me. But we're definitely putting some things in the works. But when we talk about, how information was disseminated back in the day, or we're talking about, where these political movements were, when you talk about people like President Barack Obama, who said that he was in these churches having meetings, okay? Church folk would say we were having camp meetings, okay? But the reality is we got to go back to where we receive information for us and by us. Because the other side is talking about indoctrination. No, that's what y'all are attempting to do, okay? And so I think it's very imperative and important that we surround ourselves by and with not just communities, but populations of people that are alike, right? Because while we may be a part of the same, population, that doesn't mean we're part of the same community, right?
Right.
So that is something that also needs to be emphasized. Find your community. That's one. Find your community, those things, and where you identify cultures and like cultures and standards and morals. But also find various population groups that are like, right? You don't have to cohabitate. You don't have to do anything that should be out of the ordinary. But when you definitely come to work together, you'll definitely see how far you can go. So the church and politics is something that's really kind of always been ingrained in me. And so we ain't done. We ain't done.
So the last thing before I move on, you were talking about, because I wanted you to address each one because I just
Yeah.
those points that you made. So this last one, we recently had the HIV should not be a criminal day. What was it? What's it called? National Non-Criminalization.
HIV is not a crime day.
That's what it was. HIV is not a crime day. So give us a little bit about how you got involved with that, what that is, and because get this, I never heard of that.
Mm-hmm.
Never heard of that.
Get this. I never heard of it either. So
Okay.
let me tell you. I receive invitations to do things all the time, right? Host and facilitate all. I was trying to make it through.
He said, I just came to get paid.
I got my. All right. Listen, submit that paperwork. All right. What does W say? So I get invitation to do things, host, moderate, and so I received the email. But I guess I was sought out for that one because they were still centering policy, and health equity practices as well. And so when I was confronted with that opportunity, it also allows me opportunity to self-educate.
Yeah.
And really do an introspective look on what it is that I even want to know or should know and support. And so I received contact via email to inquire if I would like to moderate this particular panel on HIV is Not a Crime Day, hosted by Xavier University School of Pharmacy and Minority Health, the Office of Minority Health, and something like that. But it was very important because during Black history, we often find our Black cisgender women who are coming up with more contact with HIV or more infections. Okay, and so these types of conversations are very important. And so for me, because I always battled this topic. Okay, this was a topic that I used to wrestle with. All right, until I heard somebody else. And when I say this to say that I can't get with people who do intentional things. All right, that's my whole thing. And so if we're out here being intentional about spreading this virus, I can't support that. And we need some legal action to be taking place. But when we're talking about retaliatory violence, okay, or we're talking about just getting randomly mad with somebody or whatever the case may be, we need to have protections that are on the books for these people who have acquired HIV. Further along that, this day also allotted the opportunity to highlight those disparities in our healthcare system that do not promote the greatest sense of equity nor equality when it comes to servicing people. And the reality is demographics are not limited as it pertains to this virus because it has no bias. And so when we talk about institutions and systems that are in place to treat people, we need to talk about the policies that are in place. We need to talk about the cultural competency that needs to take place and also the application of that thing with cultural sensitivity. Okay. And so for me, I was asked to participate and to moderate. Well, I'm a lively individual, okay, and I know a few things, so I can keep up conversation. And so I was very honored to have been asked to host that, and like I said, it got allowed me to gain a new and valuable perspective as it pertains to how I even envision HIV is not a crime.
Yeah, that was amazing. That was amazing because even to hear you say it, because you mentioned something when you were giving the address online. You said a lot of these people, they have this because of the lack of good health care.
Absolutely.
You know,
healthcare and social determinants, not even healthcare. Because then what happens when you have a sex worker?
yeah.
Okay. Because they can't afford rent or they're not allowed to get a standardized job because of their gender identity.
Yeah.
What do you mean that now I'm going to be penalized? There's a statute in the state of Louisiana that just got repealed, the CAN statute or Crimes Against Nature statute, which really put you on a sex offense registry if you were to get stopped by that. Right now, it's since been dissolved. However, the implication of that thing, are you being considered a sex offender, is something that is still present. And so now the fight continues to get that withdrawn or taken away. But when we're talking about people who are trying to survive, when we're talking about people who don't have a place to lay their head, when we're talking about people who are scratching to survive, we really have to pay attention that a lot of these things are not by self nor intentional acquisition for no reason of your own. And so we need to understand those social determinants that are working against our people or working against people in general that are ultimately impacting their health. And this isn't limited to HIV, right? When we're talking about diabetes and when we're talking about high blood pressure, we're just talking about any health condition. We need to pay attention to those things that are in place that are further advancing these type of narratives. Because, I mean, we're slowly dying. We're slowly dying on a social level, a physical level, an emotional level, a mental. We're dying, okay? And we got to do something to be intentional about revitalizing the fire, or reigniting the fire that dwells within.
Yeah. When I was in Paris, I had a manic episode and it was still early in my diagnosis. So I didn't really know how to, which was why I had to leave. I didn't really know how to manage my mental health. And I had to come home and to learn. And that's where the 19 years of therapy and 19 plus, because it's still in therapy. Um, in fact, I have therapy tomorrow morning. So it's so crazy that, we talk about that because oh my God. Like, even when I was in Paris and different things like that, having the manic episode, I had to be hospitalized. I was hospitalized
Mhm.
for quite a while, in their psych eval, unit, their psychiatric ward. And, they had to take care of me. Doctors came in. I'm crying, trying to figure out what the hell is wrong with me. And, the doctors are talking to me, the nurses, some of the best people I ever met, you know, were in these hospitals. And I did not get a bill. I didn't have to pay a thing because, in France, they have socialized healthcare.
Mhm.
And they believe that their community, their country is only as strong as its weakest member. So they're like, we have to make sure everybody can have access to this. One of my favorite comedians, Ali Wong, she was talking about maternity leave. In places like France and Germany, a woman gets up to 3 years paid maternity leave and a nanny, a government issued nanny to help her get back into the acclimation of work and life and her children. She doesn't have to do it by herself. And these things are some of the main reasons, as far as career too, why I've been working the way that I do, and I don't take engagements here and I don't take requests here because I know where I belong. I belong in Paris. So I just more so here in America, this is where I was from. So, Philadelphia, I started my business here, and what I'll do is I'll open a second branch in Paris. But, you know, it means a lot to be able to have the autonomy to really traverse the world and not have to worry about healthcare, not have to worry
Mhm.
about mental health, not have to worry about a lot of things. Like, how much stronger would America be if
Yeah.
she modeled? Now, mind you, America's 400, 500 years old.
Mhm.
The Roman Colosseums are 1,000 years old. Catholic
Mhm.
Church, the Vatican, thousands upon thousands of years old. So why can't we look at what they did and take the parts that worked and leave the parts that didn't?
Well, we just live in a world that don't like colored people.
Ah!
So I'm sorry, I ain't got nothing deeper for you than that. I ain't got. Welcome to the colored section, because I don't have nothing.
I
I
know,
ain't got nothing to
Donnie. I
say.
know. I know the music by Donnie. You said "Welcome to the Color Section." I know who
Oh,
that
you
is. Yeah,
know.
we live from the head down and not
Yeah,
the feet up. Yeah, I am adorned, but yeah, I know him. Yeah, his music it was everything to me back in '03. But
yeah,
like, no, that was good. That was good. That took me. You made me turn. That you got me good.
yeah.
But it's true. It's so true. So moving right along. So we're talking about all of these things. So you are the founder of Motivating Millennials.
Mobilizing.
Mobilizing, I'm
Mhm.
sorry, Mobilizing
Good.
Millennials. Tell me what that's about. Because that's your own initiative. So what's that about?
Yeah. And so in 2019, December 2019, 45 was in office.
Okay.
And like I said, I love politics. My bachelor's is in political science. And
Yeah.
so I thought it'd be personal to do civic engagement and civics for dummies, because you're not taught politics or civics like you were back in the gap. And so I thought it'd be something personal to go ahead and to do that. However, tell God the plans to make him laugh, because while I thought about it on such a level that he has such another destination for it to be. And so that was December 2019, 2020, during the heat of COVID and during the George Floyd riots, that I go to a group of people who I was in a cohort with, and I said that it's time to have the first Mobilizing Millennials March. And within under 2 weeks, we were able to plan that march with about over 300, 400 people outside of Armstrong Park or outside of Congo Square, where on Sundays our enslaved ancestors were allowed to congregate. I believe in civil disobedience. And so if it ain't right, it ain't right. And we have to protest it. And I did not like the response of country, of course, but I certainly didn't like the response of city and local elected officials as well. And so Juneteenth or June 19th, 2020, we had our inaugural march. And from there, we filed official nonprofit paperwork. But we serve as an advocacy hub. We serve as a think tank, right? And so my whole emphasis of mobilizing millennials is to promote civic engagement and political literacy. Because if we don't have an understanding about what's going on, we can't proceed about the changes that we want to see. And civically engaged, we got to participate, number one, in the voting process. It matters. And unfortunately, have we crafted a narrative that says that it does not matter? No, certain powers that be actually show up to polls. Okay, certain populations of people actually show up to vote because their hatred for you outweighs the love that you might even have for yourself. And so what does it mean when you ignore going to a ballot box that will ultimately determine that a governor would be, my organization is nonpartisan, I'm partisan, that you have a governor who's a Republican, Secretary of State who's a Republican, Attorney General who's Republican, a supermajority in the state Senate, and a supermajority in the state House, and we're not able to get anything really done on behalf of human issues. When we're talking about a governor who's denying food assistance for young people during the summer to have an additional $40 a month per child during the summer. Why? Because these young people are expecting to eat at school, all right, and food is expensive, right? Or when we're talking about different crime bills that are not addressing root causes, but are actually retaliatory and are actually racist in their premise, y'all, we have issues when we have an attorney general who is going to only do what the governor says, right? Or we have the legislature who admittedly says that this is what the governor wanted, okay, bringing in and introducing legislation because this is what the governor wanted. You have people who are pawns. And so I don't want us to hear or us to be convinced anymore that our vote doesn't count, because if it did not, our ancestors wouldn't have died as a result of. Those folk in the civil rights movement wouldn't have died as a result of. They knew the importance of you going to cast that ballot, even though they had to take literacy examinations so that people like me and you can have a right to make a decision over what happens in our life. And so I can't, this is something obviously I get passionate about, but I can't deal. I can't deal. I ain't gonna deal. I can't deal. Lives are on the line. People are dying. And I don't have time to move in a moderate pace when lives are on the line. Go vote. But that's what their organization is about.
You know what? I love that. I just love, oh God, I love you. I do. I love you so much.
I love you.
It was apparent at the beginning that we loved each other.
Yeah.
We were just like, oh my God, you know.
Yeah.
No, but I love you because your passion has purpose. You know, some people can be passionate about something and it really goes nowhere. You know, and that was kind of, I was at that crossroads in my career. It was like, okay, you can be passionate about music, or you can come over here and do what God is telling you to do and catch music on the flip side. You know, have it added to you, you know? And it's so crazy because I do these Queen of Shade videos, you know them. So
cool.
Yeah, so I was doing them before we sat down. I always do my work. You know, I don't like to, I multitask basically. So I was doing them and I was talking about the fact that, you know, God, you know, all the things that we've been through and all the things that we, you know, that is happening in the world. Like we We do have power. We do have the ability to change things. Our voice, it does matter, no matter how many people, places, or things try to make us feel, insignificant. I have voted in every election since I was old enough to vote.
Yeah.
And so 18, I'm 41. I
Yeah.
will not. I voted against Bush. I voted for Gore. I'm going back. Like, I have voted. And, you said something that just keeps it hurts my heart, because not what you said, but the premise of the other side behind it is they don't care about the humanity. They
Yeah.
don't care about the humanity. See, I keep trying to not be pulled into politics. I feel that I can do more being who I am. I feel that I
Mhm.
won't have to kiss the brass ring if I
Mhm.
do who I am, if I am who I am, and I move freely, or like we like to say in fashion, when you're an editor, at large.
Mhm.
I can be at large, and I can do what I need to do and help where, because get this, I was saying to my grandmother yesterday morning, and I was like, because I have all of these 5013C ideas. And I'm like,
Mhm.
and I've had them since I was a young person, because my attitude was, I know how hard it was for me. I know how hard it is still for me. And my purpose for being here is to make sure that it is not as hard for the next person.
Correct.
You got some people, well, I didn't have that, so why should they? I'm not one of the people. I will literally consider it a fail my entire life if it is not easier for the next person coming. And
Correct.
for me, I get to see the next person. Today is his birthday. My nephew turned 23 today. So, he's everything to me. I'm like his uncle father kind of thing, uncle dad and nephew son. And it's just, I have, and this is one thing that I love, because you were talking about this too, in my own home, because you were talking about the community. I educated my baby. He went to school,
Mhm.
but then he came home and got a whole nother education from his uncle, about business, about the industry, about everything. And he's a talented rapper. He's a talented rapper and songwriter. And they can't, and the thing is, I don't have to worry about them getting my baby. I don't have to worry, because I've taught my baby what that looks like,
That's right.
So that goes for everything: politics, community, feeding kids over the summer. Do you know back in the 80s, I just had a memory. Back in the 80s, I was literally 6, 7, and wow. I remember the like youth center being opened at like 12 noon on certain days, especially on the weekend, being able to
Mhm.
go get a meal, being able to go in there and eat.
Yeah.
And I was one of those children where my mama was on drugs. Daddy was nowhere to be found,
Mhm.
So those meals in the 80s birthed this. And I'm going somewhere with this. Look at what it birthed to
Mhm.
get just a little help.
Mhm.
But you said it earlier. You don't like colored people.
Welcome to the color section.
What it is,
Welcome to the Negro League.
yeah, what it is I heard someone recently say this about something else. It was Billy Porter. And then the about having to let go of his beautiful home in Long Island. But and I was upset about that. But he was talking about, even in my business, most artists, he said, most artists, if you are not making the fuck you money, is what he called it, they literally live from check to check. I know what that's like. I know what that's like. So, but in the article, they did some research, and they were like, it was actually said by an executive in Hollywood, because he lost a lot during the SAG and actress strike, and the executive was heard and quoted saying, "We're going to starve them out until they are forced to sell their
That's
own."
right.
Till they're forced to sell their homes. Well, the reason why I say that is because that's what they're doing
That's
to us.
some hateful stuff.
But that's what they're doing to us as,
Yeah.
as Black people. They're moving into our communities. They're buying up all the big ass houses and everything, letting them sit and then starving us out. And then
No,
pricing us
absolutely.
out, pricing us out of our own communities. We can't even where I grew up is all now Temple University. My
Oh,
grandmother, yeah, like my grandmother went to Temple University. She's an alumni, but like literally, we lived across the street. They tried for years to buy her home, and then
mhm.
now it's all Temple. Like everything they built, like down there, it just there's no neighborhood anymore.
Mhm.
It's all
Mhm.
homes for their students, and it's like, well, what the hell did y'all do with everybody living
That's
here?
right. That's
What
right.
because
We catering to? Who we catering to?
yeah, and that's the thing, like. That's a very good question. I stopped because I spirit when you said who are they catering to? I heard everyone but you.
Mhm.
Everyone but you.
That's some sad stuff. I tell you that.
That is
Um, and you know, it's nothing that is uniquely an experience of just one area.
yeah,
Um, as gentrification is a thing. I don't have an issue with gentrification. I think that we need to be schooled about that thing just a little bit more.
yeah,
Because gentrification literally is the advancement of your communities, right? The issue that comes with gentrification is that you have a people who do not have the economic circulation to keep up with the social advancements that are being made. Now, the latent goal of advancing these cities are, of course, to push folk out. In New Orleans, the greatest opportunity to do that was after Hurricane Katrina, when it was opportunity for outside developers to come in and ultimately impact people who have been in their homes 60, 70 plus years because now they can no longer afford to pay property taxes on their fixed income.
mhm,
Or you have where we just allow short term rentals or Airbnbs everywhere, and people are acquiring funds, and then property values are going up around everybody else, but folk are not able to competitively compete with that. That's an issue. It's problematic. And so, just as what's happening in Gaza, and I hate to do such a comparison, but just as what's happening in Gaza with total disregard for life, the genocide just looks differently. Okay, because there's a grave genocide, or what were they saying? A mass exodus,
yeah,
I believe was the term that they were using. These folk all the time, they don't want us here. And so whether it's the pesticides they put in your food, whether it's the dumbing down of the education system, whether it's not providing you with a meal to eat, they're trying to phase us out. Okay. And we gonna have to really tap in and hone in because there will be no more of us. You know, and it's so sad to see people having to make certain decisions that they shouldn't have to make, especially when it comes to livelihood. Is it going to be this or that? Am I going to sacrifice this for this? That should not be of conversation, not in the land of the free, not in the home of the brave. But hey, welcome to the color section. Yeah, I it
no,
is what it is.
no, you said something. You said a lot that was very, very important, and I want to talk about the trans community just for 1 second. Um,
You can talk about the trans community for 10 seconds, but there's 20 seconds. There's not enough time
yeah,
that they'll talk about the trans community or population. So you can take your time on this segment.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. So Laverne Cox did a podcast special where she talked about uh, the release that Pornhub put out, and it was showing the states where trans porn was most researched. The,
Okay, I bet it's the South.
they were all red states. They were all red states.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my thing is I commented under that Yes, because get this, Black people go hand in hand too. We're so sexualized, and it's not just sexualized. The powers that be want to keep us in a position where they can use us
Oh
and
yeah.
back and call. If they lose that edge over us, we can
That's
go
it.
do whatever and whatever what we want to do, and they want to stop that because there's easy access to us down here. It's basically saying, stay where we put you.
That's right.
Put you. But it was so crazy because I commented under Laverne's post, and I shared a true story. I said, at one point in my life, I worked as a female phone sex agent on a 900 line, and because of my voice. And what happened was I had this man call me, and what we have to understand is this was 19 years ago. This was 21 years ago, going on 22 years ago. So let's look at it now. Let's look at how trans has become, the trans community is becoming more and more visible because they're fighting back. So let's look at it, and that's happening now. This is 2024. So let's look at that. So we're talking way, 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 way back. So we're
Yeah.
talking 21 years ago. 21 years ago, TVTS, that call, those were the calls. Like when you heard it on the phone, you knew what character to play because you got the abbreviation. TVTS is transvestite, transsexual. That's the call that they want. So TVTS. Now, this is a Jewish company that I worked for too, mind you. Yeah, exactly. I said it all. That was the most requested call 21 years ago in the call center. Now, what you have to understand about this call center is it still exists.
Uh-huh.
So that's number one. That's number one. Then we never closed. We were open 24/7. All holidays, we had shifts. So
They got a hell of an operation, huh?
yes, yes, yes. And get it, they paid us well. Oh, I lived in the center of my city. They paid us well. But it also, I'm an actor, I'm a comedian, I'm a singer, I'm a this, I'm a that, like I do so much. I'm an entertainer. But I cut my chops there first. And it boosted my confidence that I could come out to the world like this and be received. Because before that, I didn't know any transvestites. I saw that stuff on Real Sex 20 on HBO. That's the kind of place where I got my education from, on trans people and transvestites. So turn around, and this one gentleman, he called, and I needed, now mind you, it was $4.99 a minute. We had to keep them on the phone for 35 minutes. And I usually did that. But with the TVTS call, I didn't mean to rush it, but and get it, you have people in your ear. So you have the caller, and then you have your managers in your ear. You can hear each other. So it was a real operation. They tell you what to do. Like they'll listen to you, but if you listen, if they feel like you're losing him, you will hear them in your ear say libido check, like literally. And then you will go into your techniques of how to libido check a man on the phone. I'm telling you, I am not to be played with. I was very good at my job, but I brought it out here. Like I brought it out here now. I use these techniques in all of my work, but this is the reason. I jumped the gun with him and he climaxed too quickly. So I figured, because we usually hear caller hung up. This man, Caucasian, proceeded. There were 20 minutes, like 15 or 20 minutes left to the 35-minute call. Because I was tired. I jumped the gun. So turn around, and for the rest of the call, he proceeded to degrade me and tell me I needed Jesus, that I was a scourge on this earth, that I was going to burn and die and go to hell, that I was wrong. And I listened to him because I'm looking at the clock.
That's right.
I need this call. So I let him degrade me. And then when we got down to like the last 5 minutes, I said,
he didn't degrade you. He degraded when he thought it was you.
And get it. Exactly. Okay, you know where I'm going with this. So then I politely said to him, I said, sir. He said, what is it? You need Jesus? I can pray for you. I said, with all due respect, I'm not the one that just got off to a transsexual fantasy.
Oh, okay.
That was you.
That's right.
And when I said that, I finally heard caller hung up.
I bet you.
But get this, Jay, that gave me so much confidence because I realized that was the first time I realized that people's hate is not actually their hate. They admire you. And it's that if I can't beat you, if I got to join you, but you don't want them to join you, you got to keep your eyes open. But I realized that the world was looking for this. Never closed. This is what y'all call for every day. I was like, oh, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be all right. And that's when my career shifted. That's when my whole career shifted because I realized, honey, these people want you. I don't care how many times they tell you no. Their no's mean yeses.
And you know, I think the greatest thing that is so, the thing that is so funny about that is that I don't know. Oh Lord, let me get these thoughts together. My ADHD tapping in because my mind went all over. It's those folk who participate in backdoor abortions for their mistress who are drafting policies of anti-abortion. It is those people who then get outed because they were dressed up or cross-dressing and they killed themselves because it was outed. The same folk caught with these trans women.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, it's an issue now because you're outed. If all of y'all really like this, all right. I'm just trying to gain some understanding. Okay. Because if all of y'all is really like this or really like this in private, and y'all all honestly convene in the same areas in private, okay. What's the issue with publicizing that thing? Why? Because you are a quote unquote Christian nationalist. I'm really trying to gain understanding because as you were talking, the only thing that I heard was the individual being so confused with themselves. You know, and this is not the first time where I've heard stories of everything being hunky-dory in the beginning, yet it's ultimately like a switch done flipped. Okay, where folks' lives are now at jeopardy. Okay, this is some disturbing stuff that we're dealing with, and we have so much more than fetishizations and things. Because honestly, it's a power superiority thing. When we go back to the history of time, I'm not this complexion just to be this complexion. Okay, we have to talk about the realities of what happened. And when folks are even playing around with the word sexual assault and all of that, our ancestors were raped on a constant. And you can't tell me that there was no type of genuine attraction there. You're just confused as to why it exists for you.
I identify as omnisexual. Which is basically the cousin to pansexual. I'm trying to get this lighting together. That ain't cute.
It looks great.
But I identify as omnisexual, which is basically the cousin to pansexual. Omnisexuals just being considerate of gender identity. It does matter, right? Though we can be attracted to multiple genders, gender identity is a part of what guides our attraction, if you will. But going outside of that, I believe I was talking about calling folks out. Was that the next thing?
Yes.
Calling folks out. Yeah, I did say that. I believe in calling folks out because you have a lot of people who are participants in a lot of the same things that they're demonizing, and that they are weaponizing, and trying to use against people. And I knew before we got stopped, I was talking about, the cross-dresser. There was a cross-dressing mayor who killed himself due to these things being publicized, a white guy. But 9 times out of 10 is white Republican people who are drafting pieces of legislation who are participating in these same things. That's asinine, and it's immoral. And if you ask me, the stuff is criminal because a lot of things that y'all have drafted policies against a lot of times those things, and what you participate in yourself.
You know
And
what?
so,
Yeah,
go
go ahead.
ahead.
Okay, no, because what I was gonna say is that's what I was telling under Laverne Cox. Get it? They're mad at the Laverne Coxes. They're mad at the T.S. Madisons. They're mad at the Hope Giselles. They're mad at the Sydney Stars. They're mad at the Shauna Brooks. And there's so many more. Jamie Parrish. Like they're mad at these women because these women are not at the beck and call of these politicians and private citizens to make a living. They're mad at the Jaguar Evermores. You know, like that. That's why I asked you about that, because that matters. Like they're angry because if all of these people, transsexuals and transgender individuals and transvestites, can legitimize themselves and, like we talked about earlier, know themselves, know their worth, then we no longer have to wait for their dollar.
I tell people all the time, when you know your worth, nobody can depreciate your value. When you know your worth, nobody can depreciate your value. I don't care if you are the last loaf of bread on the shelf, somebody wants it.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean everybody should have it. Okay. And so when you know who you are, when you know whose you are, when you understand that you are beautiful not for anything you've done, but simply being who you are, you move further with a greater strength. And one thing that you said that I want to highlight is that these people have legitimized themselves. See, we weren't considered human, all right? We're still not considered human to this day. And folk are still trying to understand how we're able to move up a ladder that they have set for us to turn into a slippery slope. At the end of the day, these beautiful Black trans women are doing the thing. And I am so grateful for the sacrifice. I'm grateful for the intentionality. I'm grateful for the perseverance. I'm grateful for the persistence of the daughters of Sylvia Riviera, of the daughters of Marsha Penn Johnson, of the daughters of Street Transvestites Action Revolutionaries, or STAR. Okay, I'm grateful to all of the participants of Christopher Street that has allotted people on today to not necessarily just up and come and be themselves, but to fight through some of the damning times of life so that they can ultimately be themselves. I give my greatest sense of kudos and greatest sense of gratitude for the roads that were paved so that this person who identifies as a member of the LGBT plus community is able to walk and not just survive, but thrive.
Yeah, thank you so much for saying that, because that is where I was going. Because just in, like, literally as a transvestite, or like my auntie Darnell Jones calls me, he's the one that said, baby, you're a trans illusionist, not just a transvestite. You know,
and I'm glad that you're mentioning that too, not to pause you, but I also eventually want you to touch on transvestite, because when we're talking about wording, you don't hear too many people still using that. And so beyond where you were going, I want you to tap into that. I want you to tap in.
Exactly. So where I was going was, I was going to say that, you know, being on that line, and get this, I was an employee. I worked every day. I worked 6 days a week. So I heard this request for me over and over. And our shifts, we got paid great, but our shifts were 6 hours at a time. So I heard this request for me. I was there 2 years. I heard this request for me for
come on, illusionist.
Right. 2 years. And you know, I would tell my girlfriend, because I met one of my best girlfriends there. And I was so broken at that time, you know, and the mainstream entertainment just wasn't where I belonged, because they just didn't want to see me be and prosper. They wanted me to be everybody else's songwriter, everybody else's backbone, you know, background in their foreground. And I just wasn't into that. I said, no, we're going to have some A-lister gays. And now we do, you know, we do. Shout out to them all. You know, even as I was naming names, you don't want to leave anybody out. but it's like, there's so many. MJ Rodriguez, there's so many. Dominique, like there's so many. But what I wanted to say is, and you took me into this, which was great. I was a transvestite. A transvestite. Now listen to this definition. A transvestite, literally, if you listen, the word for clothing in Spanish is vestido. So literally, the word trans means change. If we go to the Latin, it means change. So change clothes. That is what transvestite means, to change clothes. And usually it's of the other gender. There are female transvestites, plenty of them. But, what people don't understand about transvestites is they're usually heterosexual men.
Yeah.
Usually Caucasian.
Yeah.
Sexual men, because they like, and you have to understand what they like. See, with when I realized who I was, I gave it more pizzazz to it. It had to be more than that. But these men, I once saw a documentary on them in London. It was in London because it wasn't here. But they wear, the undergarments of women. I don't think, now mind you, I have like jock straps and things like that I wear when I'm working out. But all of my underwear, and except for when I really want to be comfortable, I have a few pair. All of my underwear are women's underwear. I don't even wear men's underwear. And I so happened to be online and I found this brand that spoke to me. It's, so it's a brief brief cut. And then what happens is there's a line of sheerness. So this is the brief. So there's a line of sheerness at the top. The bottom is dark, so you can't see anything. I fit perfectly in there. But when you turn around on the back, it's sheer, but right on the buttocks are two black cutouts that make your derriere look like cleavage. If it gives the illusion of cleavage. You see, when you look at the underwear, you're like, okay, because you can see in the T-zone, you can see, but these panels are there that makes it look like you have boobs, but it's your ass. And I just fell in love with the brand and bought 100 pair. Like I loved it. I always have you cracking up. I have. He said, "Who in it?" Right?
Oh yeah, that got me. That got me. That got me. I'm telling you, that got me. You're gonna have to cut this video. I'm still a man. I am still. That was the shirt. That was the shirts back. I am a man. I am still a man. I am a man during civil rights time. I am a man. Lord have mercy. Holiness is. Thank you, Lord. Still right. Still right.
Well, listen, it's an honor. That's an honor to have you, have you begotten, because
we got to refill the champagne. Mercy.
No, but like, that and so when I say transvestite, Darnell, my auntie Darnell Johnson, he knew that the term, this is gays, we well educated. So, and he works in Hollywood as well.
Most.
He does a lot of like interviews and talk to the best and talk to the most and, rubbing elbows, socialite and all of that stuff. So he knows. So he said to me, he's like, baby, you're not a transvestite. You're not a transvestite. You're a transillusionist. It's your illusion.
I like that.
And I get it. I love it too. It's in my bio.
I like that.
And I got the footage where he sat by oath. He named me. Like literally, yeah. I was like, I love that. And it was just a beautiful way to put that. But back to what I was saying, like being on that line for 2 years. And get this, because of my education, my calls were extremely vivid. Because of my background in fashion, My calls, they would ask what I was wearing. And honey, my boss, she's gone on too. Donna Wesley, she would make us
people dying who ain't never died before.
right. Right. For every noun, we had to have two adjectives. So I couldn't say I have long hair. I had to say I have long flowing hair. You know, all brown curly locks, or we had to describe because they could not see us. Now look at how this set me up. That was more of the self-actualization that I needed. I needed to know who I was. And I was coming into that. I came to that job broken, but I started to gain a lot of confidence. But look at this. It not only did that, it also made it okay in my mind to, if I could show the world this persona, they could hear this feminine voice too. Something that had been the bane of my existence all my life. Something that I never hated, but I didn't like the attention, the negative attention and the violence that it caused. I literally was in a barbershop and there was a man in there who literally did not like gays. Now I'm sitting there, I just came from the gym. I'm in a tank top and they were upset about that. I had muscles and this, that, and the other. His 5-year-old son attacked me, started punching me in my head as I was sitting down. And he said nothing.
And I wouldn't touch the 5-year-old.
Listen, I made it a teachable moment. And I taught him what my grandmother taught me. Baby, I have no control over my voice. It sounds the way it sounds because I was born with it. And I don't want to get rid of it. It's different. It's unique. And that's what makes me unique. And do you know what this baby said to me at the end of that? I actually really do like your voice. So I knew that it was what he was taught, not who he was. You see? So, a lot of people don't. Yeah, we get ready.
There's two things that I take away from that. Is that we have to unlearn a lot. We have to unlearn a lot. And a lot of these things are ingrained within us. But aside from that, you mentioned trans, and trans meaning change. I tell people all the time, I'm trans. Okay? You're trans. Honey, the thing is, there is a prefix and a suffix. Gender is the suffix. Okay. I am trans. I have embarked in many capacities in my life that calls for transition. I have been on a journey. Dr. Gwendolyn E. Boyd, past national president of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, past president of Alabama State University, and engineer. She said, life would not be a journey if there were no mountains to climb. I'm grateful for every mountain because while I reached the peak of one, I realized it was the valley for somebody else. And if this was low for somebody else, I know that I can do nothing but keep going up. She also continued to say that challenges make champions. And while it is not always so fitting that we endure some of the things that we do, honestly, I don't regret anything because of the champion that it has allotted me to be on today. And so when we talk about transition, or we talk about seasons of change, we have to understand that everybody is trans. If you are the same person today that you were 5 years ago, something is wrong. If your value system is the same today as it was 5 years ago, something is wrong. If your standards for yourself or for what you tolerate is the same, something is wrong. If you don't have established barriers in place to ensure that you are not disrespected and to ensure that lines aren't crossed, something is wrong. And so all of that to say, I identify as trans. And honestly, many people in this world are trans. Okay. Now, what that suffix is, that can change. Okay, you have called people transplants when they move from one place to another, huh? All right, come on, somebody. So at this point, we need to be more intentional. What trans population are you talking about? If that's the case, we need to, if this is the legislation that you're advocating on, if you want to ban all trans, let's talk about what that means. and what that looks like. Confront them with their own crap. But that's all I had to say on that. I just wanted to get that out.
That was beautiful. That was beautiful because literally these women are fighting for their lives. And no, I'm not transgendered, but I know the struggle because, imagine me being me, a bald head. I could have on men's clothing. I could be in anything, and I still got attacked the same way. People don't know these lives and our stories that we have with us. So, and it was always because no, that's a girl, that's not a boy. And how fitting was it? How fitting was it that I grew up to be a model? That was the crazy part about it. This brown boy, his first job ever in entertainment was a fashion model. Like that says something about the collective ignorance of our people.
When it's on the inside of you, you ain't got to look for it, search for it, long for it, wonder about it. That model was always in you. And as one who believes in the thought and the realm of prophecy, whatever is spake shall become when you arrive at the time. And so when we put those energies out there, when we put those words out there, we have placed a prophetic voice out there that decreed and declared that something would happen. Prophecy fulfilled tells me that I met up with the words I spoke and the time in which it was supposed to happen. And so be it as it may, if it was your first opportunity, your first job opportunity, the reality is it was already inside of you. You just have to match up and link up with the time that God wanted that thing to permeate in your life.
You are so right, because I say this, and I want to say this before we say goodbye to these beautiful people. I want everyone to hear this, and I say this in the presence of an anointed man of God. You don't have to be Christian to know God. You don't have to be Christian to know that God, listen to this. You don't have to be Christian to believe in the Trinity of God. We always used to say this too when I was younger. To my mother, I am her son. To my sister, I am her brother. To my nephew, I am his uncle, but I am still all the same person.
That's good. That's good.
That's what that is. That's all that matters. And, we like to fight with ourselves. And it's like, no, stop fighting. It's so crazy how much they try to kill emotion out of us because that it's right based on the way that you feel.
Absolutely.
And get this, I say this specifically for Black people of the diaspora. We know the truth because of how we feel. We will get out of bed and we will go to get the newspaper off the porch, and something said, don't go get that right now. Let me go brush my teeth. And then you turn around and find out some silly person done crashed into the front of your house right where the paper was.
Yeah, I think that's a term called post-traumatic slave syndrome. I think that's the correct terminology.
Oh, expound on it. Post-traumatic slave
syndrome.
Please talk about it.
It's basically where we are able to identify certain things inherently and intrinsically due to the trauma of our ancestors. The ability to smell rain, the ability to know just when different things are coming, like you were talking about, that inside feeling. Ultimately, genetics begin to shift, okay? The brain begins to shift, how you think begins to shift, and your survivability begins to shift. Just like a chameleon or an animal, you're going to do what it is that you need to do to survive. And so sometimes that means adapting through multiple generations to survive whatever it is that you are experiencing. And so a lot of us, I feel, are suffering from post-traumatic slave syndrome in the sense that what was once not a part of ancestry have been what has been acquired through them and what has been genetically passed down to us. And so some of these things aren't normal. That's why Lord forgive me, that's why we think wet white people smell like wet dog, because that's what we smell. No offense, but when we talk about us running away or trying to find freedom, think about the water, think about the rain. However they were able to associate that type of stuff don't just come from nowhere, and so we've really been on the end of just trying to make it, and as a result of us trying to make it, we've now acquired different abilities, not things that we so wanted or desired, okay, but things that are now a part of our daily makeup and our daily structure. And we wonder why some of our other counterparts cannot understand the way in which we think or understand the ways in which we move. However, their ancestry does not look like mine. And so we're suffering from things. And so mental health is very important. I'm actually working on my master's in social work. Clinical and mental health is very important. Don't you think you are a loon? Don't you think you're crazy? Don't let nobody convince you about nothing. We all need to talk to somebody. The thing is, we be trying to handle situations by ourselves and have such a cloudy thought that we don't know how to persist from this point to that point. It is okay to say that you need help. But what I want to emphasize before I go on this tangent, man, I just forgot it. Nonetheless, it's gonna come back. It's gonna eventually come back. But at the end of the day, mental health is very, very important. People are dying because they cannot talk about certain things. People are dying because of the thoughts that are going in their heads and feel like that they can't get it out. And so when we talk about death of suicide, when we talk about people who intentionally put themselves in homicidal situations, this is real life for a lot of people. And so we definitely need to go ahead and prioritize mental health. Yeah.
And I want to piggyback off of what you were saying, because even though we have the post-traumatic slave syndrome, I want people to also take away from this. Our saving grace has been for years now, decades. And the saving grace for Black people is that we don't just have post-traumatic stress syndrome or slave syndrome. We also have the original DNA of our ancestors.
That's right.
Free. So
that's right.
That's what, and get it. It's a lot of things. Because get it. I love what you said, because if we think about it, as you were talking, there's something I always say to my grandmother. It's in the blood. We turn around, and when you breed a dog, and when you breed a cat, or you breed a showman's pony, and when they say we're looking at the breeding, it's in the blood. You know how this thing is going to act, and move, because it's in the blood. It's the same thing with us. It's the same thing with us. And, it's our saving grace, because there are things locked in our DNA that God, I'm going to just be honest, that God has even hidden from us.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. Just get this, I'm an international recording artist, and I've never had a formal vocal lesson. I went to a vocal coach one time, because the record label that I was about to sign to, the major label, said, you need to go. And I said, well, what do I need to go for? They said, well, you're not going for voice lessons. You're going for confidence lessons. You need to work with her to learn how to stand on stage and not cry through your songs and your pain. That was the reason why I was sent. I wasn't sent to learn how to sing or to have them touch my voice. And they always said, we love the raw.
It's in the blood. It's in the blood. It's in the blood. It's in the blood. It's in the blood.
Exactly. Because that's the thing. Like, I never was trained to sing the way that I do.
Yeah.
I was never taught to be
and nobody can do it.
Yeah. I was going there. But, to be the queen of shade. Nobody taught me to do this.
Hello, Dupont.
Nobody taught me to do this. So, I love that that was a great point to end with, because literally that it's in your DNA, baby. It's in your DNA.
Thank you. Because that's my sermon for Palm Sunday. It's in the blood. It's in the blood. It's in the blood. A church had invited me to render the word on Palm Sunday, and that's it. It's in the blood.
And you know
That's
what?
good.
But you know what? Something, make sure you, even in your sermon, please take them through post-traumatic slave syndrome, and then take them through the other. They need that, because to understand, baby, get it. You know, they need to understand, baby, you doing what you doing, not of your own accord.
That's right.
You know, like that you
That's
think
right.
people controlling you, not. It's in your blood. It's in your DNA. You were
That's
going.
right.
You were going to behave like this. You know, so it just was so amazing. So listen, I don't want to keep you much longer. I have enjoyed this almost 2-hour conversation that we had. And let me tell you something. Pastor J. Christopher Johnson, I have enjoyed you so much, because you're a brilliant man. A brilliant man, a beautiful man, a charismatic man. And I really have enjoyed this meeting of the minds. And I'm going to say this, I know that it won't be the last time.
Oh yeah.
As like literally this, what we are, like you even said, genetics, it's changing. We changed even as we sat here and we let our minds do their thing, you know? So I just want to say that I am so grateful, and I appreciate, and I'm humbled by the fact that you were excited to do this, because I was very excited to talk to you. I'm very familiar. I'm on your page right now. I'm very familiar with your work. So I just want people to take that away and understand that, you know, you don't have to be a hater out here. You can have people that you admire, people that you respect, and you both can push towards success together, not even doing the same thing.
That's right.
Not even doing the same thing. So tell us, Pastor J. Christopher Johnson, give me 3 words, and I know you get ready to go off. I do this with everybody. Give me 3 words that inspire and empower you.
Resilience. Because people in the city of New Orleans have a laugh to keep from crying spirit. And no matter what hurricanes come, what storms come, we still gonna be in this thing. And so that is so beautiful. Resilience, grace. Because you need to know how to carry yourself in various situations. Not saying that you won't be yourself, but ultimately how you choose to navigate this world and shows up does have impact. And you don't want to show up as a mirror of somebody else's tribulation. And 3, love. Where am I going without love? We can't do anything but love. The Bible says love is patient, love is kind. It doesn't envy, it doesn't boast. Love itself is so pure. And a lot of times people confuse love with the illusion of a love that other people like to provide. No, baby, don't you give up on love, because love has not given up on you.
Thank you so much for this.
I'm excited for you. Hold on, because I'm be done after this. Thank you for being magic, not being magical, because magical is the adjective. Yeah. Thank you for being magic and reminding me of that video. I can remember it explicitly now, because I was fussing at our community. Yeah. Take space and hold it. Thank you for allotting space to be taken up, and not just taken up, but held. There is a standing meeting with the Queen of Shade that I'm excited for the world to see, because just like a household name like Beyonce, when it comes to those of the Dufaults, it is resounding. It does resound. So thank you for providing opportunity to share your platform and to be interviewed. You are so brilliant in the ways in which you maneuver your crafts and your gifts that are inherently present within the inside of you, and understand that God is not going to rest in you until he displays the fullness of what he wants to show in you. I'm done.
So much. And I just want to say, Pastor, this ring doesn't mean that I belong to anybody but myself. That's all it means. That's all it means. Because I know you might have seen it. I don't want to deter you. In case you want to, scale prince, be a prince and with a sword and defeat an evil sorceress.
Amen and praise God.
Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, you have enjoyed the presence of Pastor J. Christopher Johnson, an activist and organizer, a pastor, a servant, executive director of Mobilizing Millennials, founder of Tabernacle of Truth. And we are so grateful that he was able to take time, 2 hours, and talk to us. Say goodbye, Pastor.
See y'all later. Until next time.
So did you enjoy? I hope you did. Please like, comment, share, subscribe. And if you want to support, you know where to find me. You know all my socials. I love each and every one of you, and thank you for watching. See you next time. Mwah.
The Queen of Shades music is now streaming on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, and all other streaming platforms. Experience the enchanting tone of the Queen of Shade as she serenades your soul. With her beautiful voice and over 30 years of vocal experience, music link in bio.
Do they know you like to handle this? I say, mister, why punish your son? 'Cause his daddy likes my kind of fun. And at night you always call my phone. You're always asking if I'm all alone. And when I tell you that I need your love, you come running just to feel me up. Turn that TV down, 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 turn that TV down.